Why I quilt. Plenty of people have quilts in their families. This is one that I made to celebrate my in-laws' 50th wedding anniversary. I pieced the blocks and sent them out to family members to sign and add their birthday. They had 10 children and 68 grandchildren, so that was a lot of blocks sewn, signed, and returned to me. Amy Lavalle in the Milwaukee Post-Tribune said this about family quilts. Not only are they beautiful works of art, but they reflect the person creating it and what was going on in their life at that time. Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. Quilts were made in colonial America using the quilting traditions of the countries they came from. Little bits of usable fabric scraps were saved, and those little bits eventually were made into patchwork designs and then into quilt tops. Some people only think about the quilts made by pioneers or those living on farms during the growth of our nation, and that they are no longer a pertinent craft. However, in the womenfolk.com article titled America's Quilting History, America's Quilt Revival and Bicentennial Quilts, 1960s and 1970s, they stated, in 1975, there was a resurgence of quilting as they were preparing for the U.S. bicentennial. People wanted to look back at their roots and learn what their ancestors did. They didn't just make bicentennial quilts. They learned how to make new quilts, things that they hadn't done before. Quilting is a sewing technique. Sometimes it's referred to as making a quilt sandwich. There's usually 2 layers of fabric with an interior insulating layer between for additional warmth. A quilt is more than just a blanket for a bed. Quilts can be made to acknowledge events and occasions. While making this type of quilt, thoughts and emotions can be stirred up and events can be remembered. Charity quilts can show love and concern for people during their hard times. Some of the different types of gift quilts that I have made are a 70th birthday quilt for my mother, the 50th wedding anniversary quilt for my in-laws, an 80th birthday quilt for my stepfather, baby quilts, and graduation quilts. I have made charity quilts for Project Linus. Project Linus provides handmade blankets to children up to age 18 in the United States who are ill, traumatized, or in need. According to Craft Industry Alliance, their 2022 survey stated, the average quilter is a woman in her 60s who is retired and has a household income of $65,000 or above. That works out well because making a quilt is expensive and time-consuming. My mother taught me to sew and how to make quilts. I had hours of sewing lessons and quilting lessons. Quilts are not an easy DIY project. It takes years how to learn how to make all the parts. I love the way I feel when making a quilt for a specific grandchild. All the while I am making it, and during every part of the process, I'm thinking of that grandchild. I remember specific experience we had with that child, their accomplishments, their failures, their successes. It is not uncommon for me to spend not just days, but also weeks making and completing a quilt for a grandchild. Quilting is a process that I value for how it makes me feel. I value the process. My time is valuable, but I think when you care enough, you make it yourself. I love the process. I love choosing the perfect fabric, pattern, and design. But for me, it's all about the feelings and the remembering and the doing. Quilts tell stories. They represent things happening in our lives. They depict times and events that need to be acknowledged. They don't just represent the receiver, but also the lives of people who make them as they capture them in time. I make quilts because they are important to me. They're a statement of love. As I am making a quilt, I acknowledge how it makes me feel as I am piecing the blocks together. I spend hours while working on a quilt thinking about the recipient and what they mean to me. I love to quilt, and I love my family, and this is my way of showing love. And here's the quilt I made for Alexa. She loves technology, and so this is @ signs and hashtags. Thank you.